Have you ever wondered how one single event could completely reshape the world? How the assassination of one man could lead to the deaths of over 20 million people and redraw the map of Europe? Today, we're diving deep into the story of World War I. It's often called the Great War, or, with heartbreaking irony, the war to end all wars. It's a tale of empires, new technologies, and a generation lost in the trenches. So, how did it all begin? Picture Europe in the early 1900s. It was a continent of great powers, a complex web of alliances, ambitions, and simmering tensions. On one side, you had the Triple Entente, France, Russia, and Great Britain. On the other, the Triple Alliance, Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Italy. Think of it like a massive, continent-wide powder keg. Everyone was building up their militaries, fueled by intense nationalism and a fierce competition for colonies and resources. All it needed was a spark. That spark came on June 28, 1914, in the city of Sarajevo. Archduke Franz Ferdinand, the heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, and his wife Sophie were visiting. As their car drove through the streets, a young Serbian nationalist named Gavrilo Princip stepped out from the crowd and fired his pistol. The Archduke and his wife were killed. This assassination was the trigger. Austria-Hungary, furious, blamed Serbia and issued an ultimatum with impossible demands. When Serbia couldn't fully comply, Austria-Hungary declared war. This is where the dominoes began to fall. Russia, seeing itself as the protector of the Slavic people in Serbia, mobilized its army to support them. Germany, allied with Austria-Hungary, saw Russia's mobilization as a threat and declared war on Russia. Then, Germany declared war on France, Russia's ally, and invaded Belgium to get to Paris quickly. This act, the invasion of a neutral country, was the final straw for Great Britain, which declared war on Germany. Within just a few weeks, the great powers of Europe were locked in a catastrophic conflict. Everyone thought the war would be over by Christmas. They were tragically wrong. The German advance into France was halted at the Battle of the Marne. What followed was the beginning of the war's most defining feature: trench warfare. Both sides dug in, creating a vast network of trenches that stretched for 475 miles from the North Sea to the Swiss border. This became known as the Western Front. Life in the trenches was hell on earth. Soldiers lived in mud, surrounded by rats, lice, and the constant threat of death. The smell was unimaginable. Were spent in monotonous boredom, punctuated by moments of sheer terror. Then came the order to go over the top. Soldiers would climb out of their trenches and charge across. No man's land, a barren wasteland of craters and barbed wire, straight into a hail of machine gun fire. Battles like the Somme and Verdun became infamous for their staggering casualties. At the Somme, the British Army suffered nearly 60,000 casualties on the very first day. It was a new kind of industrial-scale slaughter the world had never seen. This war wasn't just fought by men with rifles. It was a showcase for terrifying new technologies. Machine guns made defense incredibly powerful, leading to the stalemate in the trenches. Heavy artillery could rain down shells for days, turning landscapes into moonscapes. Poison gas, first used by the Germans, was a horrific weapon that caused choking, blindness, and agonizing death. Tanks were introduced by the British, giant metal beasts designed to cross no man's land, though they were initially clumsy and unreliable. In the skies, airplanes once used only for reconnaissance were soon armed with machine guns, leading to dramatic dogfights between flying aces like the Red Baron and Beneath the Waves. German U-boats, or submarines, waged a deadly campaign against Allied shipping. While the Western Front is the most famous, the war was truly global. On the Eastern Front, the vast armies of Germany and Austria-Hungary fought against Russia. The fighting here was more mobile, but just as brutal. The immense losses and strain on Russia's resources led to social upheaval, culminating in the Russian Revolution of 1917. The Bolsheviks, led by Lenin, seized power, pulled Russia out of the war, signed a separate peace treaty with Germany. This freed up German troops to move to the Western Front, creating a perilous situation for the Allies. The war also raged in the Middle East, where the Ottoman Empire, allied with Germany, fought against the British and their allies. Figures like Lawrence of Arabia became famous for helping to lead an Arab revolt against the Ottomans. Fighting also took place in Africa and Asia, as colonial powers drew upon the resources and manpower of their empires. Millions of soldiers from India, Africa, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand fought and died for the Allied cause. For years, the United States had remained neutral, following a policy of isolationism. But several factors slowly drew it into the conflict. Germany's unrestricted submarine warfare, which involved sinking any ship heading to Britain, was a major issue. In 1915, a German U-boat sank the passenger liner Lusitania, killing over 1,000 people, including 128 Americans. This outraged the American public. The final push came in 1917 with the Zimmermann Telegram. This was a secret message from Germany to Mexico, proposing an alliance against the US if it entered the war. British intelligence intercepted it and showed it to the Americans. That was it. On April 6, 1917, the United States declared war on Germany. The arrival of fresh American troops, known as doughboys, gave a much-needed boost to the exhausted Allied forces. At the same time, Germany was on the brink of collapse. The British naval blockade was causing severe food shortages back home, and the German population was starving. In 1918, Germany launched a final, massive offensive on the Western Front, hoping to win the war before the Americans arrived in full force. It almost worked. They pushed the Allies back dozens of miles. But the Allies, bolstered by the Americans, held the line and launched a powerful counterattack known as the 100 Days Offensive. Facing certain defeat and revolution at home, the German High Command knew the war was lost. Kaiser Wilhelm II abdicated and fled the country. On the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month in 1918, an armistice was signed. The guns on the Western Front finally fell silent. The Great War was over. The aftermath was devastating. Empires that had existed for centuries, the Austro-Hungarian, the Ottoman, the Russian, and the German, were all gone. The map of Europe was completely redrawn. The human cost was staggering. Over 9 million soldiers and 10 million civilians dead. An entire generation of young men was lost. The world was also hit by the Spanish flu pandemic, which was spread by returning soldiers and killed tens of millions more. In 1919, the victorious leaders met in Paris to hammer out a peace treaty. The resulting Treaty of Versailles placed the full blame for the war on Germany and imposed crippling reparations, military restrictions, and territorial losses. While intended to prevent future aggression, many believe its harsh terms planted the seeds of resentment that would eventually lead to another, even more destructive World War just 2 decades later. World War I changed everything. It ushered in an age of new technologies, new politics, and a new understanding of the horrors of modern warfare. It was a conflict born from a web of old-world rivalries, but fought with the brutal efficiency of the industrial age. It was supposed to be the war to end all wars, but instead, it set the stage for the 20th century's darkest chapters. Understanding its causes and consequences is essential to understanding the world we live in today. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into the history of World War I. If you found this interesting, please hit that like button and subscribe for more history content. Let me know in the comments what topic you'd like to see next. Till then, stay curious.